Welcome to the Canna-Coin Podcast with Nicole, and I am excited about today's episode because I want this podcast to really break down the creativity and the ingenuity that exists, that's happening in this cannabis renaissance, right? And so we're going to dive into a dynamic episode with a dynamic founder and CEO. But before we do that, you know, I always start off every episode with a hot topic. So today's hot topic is about the controversy. And if I use the right word, I think it's almost like inconsistent that there's so much controversy around infusing cannabis or infusing the cannabis herb into body care items and topicals, but we don't talk about infusing lavender and other types of herbs in other commercial products. So the state of North Carolina has recently passed a bill that is going to qualify the amount of milligrams of hemp, not the part of cannabis that Rick James was talking about, the Mary Jane, but the most non-aggressive, the most non-controversial aspect of the plant, the hemp version. They are saying that infusing hemp into products can cause psychoactive reactions. They're even going as far as to say that these infusions into topicals should be compared to the infusion of alcohol into products. And if an individual is consuming a CBD, hemp-derived CBD topical, and they have like a fender bender or an accident, then it should be treated like drunk driving. Well, do you say the same thing when I use my Downy fabric softener and it's infused with lavender and I get a little sleepy behind the wheel? Are we calling Downy and saying, hey, your lavender is making people sleepy? I think it's very important that we begin to treat the herb like the herb. I will always say that we should separate the definition of cannabis by non-psychoactive, psychoactive, and industrial, because there are plenty of applications of this plant. And to provide only one aspect of it with the personality of being psychoactive diminishes all of the other phenomenal aspects of the cannabis plant. So with that said, we're going to jump right into the psychoactive part today. We're going to talk to Makala Parks about Smakd by Mac.
Yes, sir.
Guys, this is going to be a little bit of a combination of a conversation because Mac is the actual founder and CEO of a rolling paper line.
Yes, I am.
This is huge.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Tell us all about this phenomenal product line that you have.
So I have a rolling paper company that I started back in August of last year. And it's kind of been like a passion project for the past year. And I've been excited about every step of the process. I do the marketing for it, the branding. I do all my packaging. And it's kind of just like, it started as just a hobby, I guess you could say. But now I kind of want to like take it and make it into like my 9-to-5. And like I really am super passionate about growing the business and getting it to more shops and more hands across the world. So
yes, honey, you are making it your 9-to-5.
Mm-hmm, I will.
I was just telling our producer, a phenomenal Coriel, that the most important thing that you can have when you're building something is enthusiasm.
Yes.
And I love the fact that you're enthused about what you're building. So that's
absolutely.
huge. So what brought you to the place where you wanted to perhaps, create this type of product?
Okay, so I actually used to work in the music industry. I still do a couple of things like here and there. But I used to always be on set or in the music studio, and people would always say, like, oh, like, can you roll this up for me real quick? Can you roll this real fast? And I kind of just started learning how to roll every different materials, like Backwoods, grabba leaf, papers, paper in fronto, like just different things. And one day I had an interview to be someone's personal assistant. I can't really say who it is. I signed a NDA for it. But I was super excited, and I thought this was like my first like step to get, like, in the industry even farther and like, meet more people and network a little bit more. So I had the meeting with her manager and the artist. And during the interview, her manager was asking me kind of questions I thought I wasn't too sure had to do with like the job role too much. But, I respected it, answered the questions. And when I asked the artist if she had any questions for me, the only question that she asked me was if I knew how to roll blunts. And I kind of was just like, that's all you want to ask me? Like, that's it? And it kind of threw me off a little bit. So when I got home, I thought like I did a pretty decent job. I had called my mom up and I said, yeah, like they told me they'll get back to me in like a week or two. Like I'll see what happens. I'll follow up. So I wait a little bit further on. And this is during COVID. So like at this point, I just finished school and I'm kind of wondering like, what am I going to do with like my life? Because the whole world is just frozen right now. And so I didn't end up getting the job. And I was kind of like defeated that day. And I tried to roll up just to like, let me smoke a little bit. And when I went to go roll up my blunt, the paper would not like stick. In the backwood that I was rolling with originally had like so many holes in it. And I was trying to just like make a Band-Aid out of it, basically. I was trying to make something work. And it just wasn't working. And I was like, man, like, why is this paper not sticking right? And it's not burning right either. And I was so frustrated, it just ruined the whole experience. Yeah. And so I kind of just thought to myself, like, well, like, fuck it. Like, I'll just make something myself.
Facts.
And so that was just kind of what started it. And then I just went through the process of, like, how do I find a vendor? Like, sampling products and, you know, trial and error. And then that's how I came up with
Passion project.
Smakd. Yeah.
What a passion project. You know, it's nothing worse than having whatever you are consuming with not work, whether it's your paper. Mm-hmm. Now, let's talk about, I'm a paper girl.
Okay.
Started with tops. I'm faithful to like bamboo and 1.5s. Mm-hmm. I feel like I enjoy a slow burn. Okay. I personally I never really enjoyed like raw, because I always felt that raw just burns so fast. Mm-hmm. Like it burns really, really fast. So tell me your preference.
Okay,
I mean, clearly Smakd is your preference.
My preference is Smakd. Yeah,
clearly.
I only smoke Smakd Pack. That's the only thing I'm rolling up with. But I think that usually I started smoking Backwoods at first, and then I went off from Backwoods because I don't want to say they're not good for you, but like I think that it depends on what type of high you really want to have. It's more of a head high, and I feel like I would find myself stuck a lot of the times if I used a Backwood. So then I went into grabba leaf, which is a little bit, I want to say less nicotine, or it hits a little bit differently, you know? So I would buy the grabba leaf, and Backwoods started getting expensive. I don't know, I'm from California originally, so when you go back to California, you could try to find a pack of Backwoods, you're gonna spend like $15, $20 sometimes.
That's crazy.
It's not how it used to be. I think out in Atlanta, the last time I really was buying Backwoods, I want to say it was like $7
That's
or like
crazy.
$8. They were not as pricey for real. When I go back home to California, $15. And it depends on which you're buying, but like if you're buying probably sweet aromatic, probably like 10, 11. White Russians, 15. Like they're expensive. So I would buy the big leaf. If you buy the big green like bag of the grabba leaf, you could save that, you reseal it, and you have probably at least 10 blunts in that one thing.
Look at you being economical with your recreational habits.
So that's what started that. And then you obviously need a paper to wrap it around the grabba leaf, because I feel like grabba leaf, at least for me, it doesn't seal as well unless you're just putting a bunch of spit on it. And I don't like when like the blunt gets too wet like that. So that kind of was out. And then the papers that I was using, I don't want to down talk the brand, but the papers I was using, they don't seal that well. Like, and that's I guess a big factor with a lot of papers is the adhesive on it. It's there, but it makes it harder to roll, because if you're trying to finish the blunt, you didn't put as much moisture on the end, it's going to start opening up. And so it just makes it harder. I feel like my papers that I have now are kind of more beginner friendly for like people who are trying to roll papers, or even if you just want it to be easier and make sure it's sealed, and when you tuck it tight, it's going to hold tight and not loosen up.
I love that.
So that's how my paper is. Can I show you?
Yeah.
Okay?
I mean, I would love for you to show me. And so your papers are actually made from hemp.
So I have two types actually on my website. So the green label that you see right there, that is my hemp paper.
Okay.
These right here are wood pulp papers, which is, they're both organic. My papers are honestly so natural that you can eat them. Like they're that edible, that smooth of a burn. They're amazing. So this is a competitor paper. And so
competitor shall remain nameless.
Yes. So I want you to try. Actually, you can do it.
Okay. So because I love 1.5s and tops, I don't like long papers. So we just gone.
And I'm going to show as well.
Just do what I would do if it was a lot shorter.
So.
All right. So we're going to do this. And then.
I just sealed the competitor paper. But it opens. You see? Like, it's not really doing the job that it's supposed to.
Yeah.
But then, if you look at this.
Okay.
That is
this
our
is
Smakd paper.
I like how light it is.
Thank you. So
it's very light.
I'm going to give you, this one right here is our wood pulp, but if you do it with our hemp paper, same formula. The only thing that's different is the paper type.
You know, one of the things that I like about paper versus, again, I just started with papers versus leaves, but I love how I feel like if you deal with paper, you're dealing with the actual product inside of the joint, as opposed to like a lot of other things.
So this is my paper. It's not going to open.
Oh, that's not going anywhere.
Unless you rip it, but then the paper's ripped.
Yeah. So it's a lot tighter. I only seal this side, but compared to this, it's a lot tighter. And see, I hate air inside of I hate any interruption to my euphoric experience. Okay.
And you know if it starts burning bad in canoeing. So that's another thing about the slow burn.
When it comes on the side?
When you wrap it tight enough, if you don't get that even roll on it, when you start pulling your blunt, if you're like pulling too heavily, it's going to start canoeing. So it's going to start burning uneven.
I hate that.
So at that point, I feel like you're essentially kind of wasting weed because it's not burning the same. So by the time you finish, you're going to have to put it out. You have all that
char. It's like charred weed, and you didn't even get anything from it.
You didn't get to smoke it for real.
So this is a lesson for everyone who wants to smoke and get all the value out of what you smoke. You need smack. You need a smack.
You guys need to get smacked.
You got to get smacked.
They have to get smacked.
Period. Yeah. So when you first started, tell me about your experience coming out in terms of like your emergence to being vocal about your cannabis consumption.
Not at all, actually. I was one of those kids growing up. I actually was like a really good kid. Like I never tried anything in high school. I kind of was the person that I would tell my friends, like if they're smoking at the party, I'll tell my mom to pick me up, like that type of girl. And then I think it's because I played water polo and I was in Junior Olympics. I was in National Charity League. I was just always so busy and like doing, school focused things.
Did you have the stigma back then because you were so focused that you didn't want to be around it because it represented something that was like non-focused or...
I think that I was just raised to be very like anti-drug. Like I think the way like my mom just always like instilled like it's kind of like if you do it, you're going to be the one that ends up getting laced. You're going to be the one that ends up, and she would make it just such a like taboo thing kind of. But I think there is ways to be safe and like obviously regulate the things that you do in life. So I feel like anything that you do responsibly, I feel like everything is good within like moderation.
Of course.
You know what I mean? Like you can get laced eating anything, drinking anything. Like it's just a matter of just like how careful you are with participating in anything that you do. So I feel like I just wanted to be like a good kid. I know my mom like, did a good job raising me and I didn't want to disappoint her. And then once I got out to school at Spelman, it kind of was just like, okay, well, this is another thing. I don't know if I can really say this.
I mean, it's a safe space.
I was always like the only black girl. And so in my head, it kind of was like, I knew I was different and I never wanted to get in trouble for anything really because I knew I wouldn't get the same repercussions. Like I knew that in my life, I have to be better. You know what I mean? Like I have to work harder. I have to have my resume has to be better. And, I just have to be, I can't be that
and you can't
stereotypical.
assign yourself to the stereotype.
Exactly. So I think that was kind of like a main focus for me as well. And then once I got to college, I think I got a little bit more lax because I went to Spelman. It was my first time ever around like all black students. When I was in high school, I was the only black girl graduating in my class of 684.
Get out of here.
There was probably 2 or 3 other black girls, and they were all half Asian. And I want to say there was probably one other like black
California,
boy possibly. Yeah, but I'm from Orange County.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different from LA for sure. So I didn't have that black interaction for real
in Orange County.
Okay, so you're understanding.
Very familiar.
But it wasn't until I got to Spelman that I started normalizing certain things as like, oh, okay, like everyone's kind of doing this, or like this is kind of acceptable, or I just started viewing the world from a different lens, I think. So I feel like that was kind of what made me kind of like more accepting over trying different things. Weed's kind of the only thing I've ever experimented with. And I think I'm anti like pill usage. Anything that's not like FDA approved kind of, or not like natural, I'm not really like
I respect
I'm going to try it,
Yeah. I mean, we're not talking about a drug anyway.
Exactly.
We're talking about a plant. It's an herb.
Exactly. So I think that was probably like my main thing. But once I got into it, I feel like I kind of wanted to learn more of like the how to and science to it. I've always wanted to know why with like everything in life. Like, why does that happen? Like, why is that occurring? More so than just trying things because the masses are doing it. So that's kind of how I just kind of like eased into it slowly.
I have a CPA for you that's in Orange County.
Really?
Yeah, and they specialize in cannabis, so
okay,
it'll be good for you. Yeah, totally. What I love about your story is very similar to mine in that high school and even in college, I did nothing. I was definitely the one that was like, it's going to make me, not perform as well. I'm not going to be able to really achieve, so I can't do it. And I remember when I finally was open to it, the first time I consumed was someone blew me a gun. Because I couldn't even psychologically wrap my mind around smoking. Right. It was like, it was so unladylike, right?
That's what my mom used to tell me. She said, it's not feminine. It's just not feminine. I'm like, it's not about feminine. Like, my mind is running 3,000 miles a minute. Like,
and when you're a high achieving, especially like scholastically, et cetera, you do need something to kind of help you reset in a way so that you can continue to show up.
And
Because
just relax a little bit.
Exactly. So it was funny because I remember when I went to college, the speech that my mom gave me, and I attended the University of Maryland, Makala Parks. She was like, take your own alcohol and roll whatever you want, roll it yourself. I was like, oh, I can roll it? She was like, all I'm going to say is just roll it yourself. And I have a 78-year-old mom that was born in 1945. So I'm grateful that she went through the 60s because she tells me that the only time she consumed was at an Earth, Wind & Fire concert, and she just couldn't stop laughing. She was like, so I don't have a problem with it. I just couldn't stop laughing, and I just didn't want to laugh that much anymore. And so I love that you were able to kind of develop your own relationship with it as opposed to like, you know, following. And even if if anyone happens to have followed pressure in order to get involved, seeing the medicinal aspects of it and not seeing it as a drug, I think is what's so powerful.
And the world's changing. I honestly feel like by the time I have kids, like, and they're in high school, it's not going to be looked at as like,
it's alcohol.
Oh, people do weed. No, like, it's just.
And it's much healthier than everything else.
Everything.
Everyone keeps saying all of these things like, oh, if you smoke too much and okay, everything in moderation, but let's really talk about like the difference between.
I could wake up and go to work the next day.
I mean, very functional.
If you have a wild
night, you might get the best from me.
The best sleep of my life. If I get drunk that night and need to go to work the next day, it's over. I'm gonna have the worst day. I can't hang. Weed, you're straight.
Yeah.
It's fine. You get a great sleep. You wake up feeling refreshed for the most part.
That's what I'm saying.
So I feel like, I think it just has such a negative connotation. We need to break those barriers down. And I think that that's what slowly is starting to happen with like the power of social media and people being able to like have widespread information on certain things.
Yeah.
So I think probably within the next like 10 years, because they already like decriminalized it federally. So
I say the next 3. I think it's already on TV. I mean, I remember watching an episode of a show with Gabrielle Union and Jessica Alba. I bring this up all the time. And when I saw Gabrielle rolling up, I was like, okay. So it's about to become like family friendly, right? So then let's talk about like the negative stigma. Being a Spelman graduate, being a woman that was the only African-American of your class, did you find that your social circle looked at you differently when you came out or became so vocal about your interest in cannabis?
Oh my God, absolutely.
You were judged.
My friends.
Stop being judgy, people. Stop being judgy.
My friends from back home, because I was the one that never did it in high school. So a couple of them, had tried every now and then. And they would always ask me to smoke with them, even down to when I would fly back home for like breaks in college, I still wouldn't smoke with my friends from back home. And they would get like offended, kind of, you never want to smoke with us. No, like I'm not a pothead. Like, like that's how I was processing in my head. And I don't need it all the time. And because I honestly just didn't find the need to like want to be high around them because I didn't use it like socially at that point. It was just more of like, I want to slow down. I want to go to sleep. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't a social thing for me at that point. So I feel like they kind of looked at it as, I can't believe it. Even now, when I do all the stuff for my brand and they see me post on Instagram or they'll ask me questions, how's the business going? In their heads, they're so like shocked that like I even have a rolling paper company, have anything to do with marijuana. Like it is like the most odd thing to them. But I just say you meet people in stages. And so it's funny for them, they met me back then. But for you, it's like, this is how you know me.
Exactly.
So, and I'm happy about the brand that I'm building for it. So I'm definitely excited to see where it goes. And I think that they're going to be supportive no matter what,
That's so good. So friends, please get Smakd. We know you smoke. You should only be smoking the Smakd Pack.
Exactly. Only.
So talk about how we met. Makala and I actually participated in a phenomenal pitch competition sponsored by Girls Inc. and JP Morgan Chase. Thank you so much. And we competed against maybe 12 to 15 other businesses. And it was it was a pitch competition and it was for an actual prize that was being distributed that day. And so all of these other businesses were beauty businesses. They were tech businesses. And then here, Makala and I come at a beauty event with a bunch of women who were super corporate, right? I'm talking about all the uses of the plant, topicals, etc. She's coming up talking Smakd Pack, and we won first and second place, the only 2 awards. And I'm just excited because that speaks to how popularized it's becoming.
People see how lucrative the industry is going to be. You know what I mean? This is a growing multi-billion-dollar industry.
Multi-billion-dollar.
Big B.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is going to be huge.
Well, and I tell people all the time, when you think about global impact in terms of products, it's like water, coffee, and cannabis. Those are the 3. Because what we're finding is as it's becoming more common, more people are coming out the woodwork sharing, like, I use this,
For
I do
this.
this, I, consume this. And it's so relaxing. It's so great to watch and to see everyone kind of embrace it and give it a new name.
I feel like a lot of people thought it was too taboo to talk about.
Yeah.
Now they're getting comfortable.
Yeah. So talk about what inspired you, aside from obviously your own use, but what inspired you to go in this direction and actually choose a paper? Was it literally the fact that you just didn't like your experience being compromised by poor paper quality?
To be honest, I haven't really shared this out loud before, but actually I wanted to do a leaf at first.
Okay.
So it's very hard to find a leaf distributor and a vendor from anywhere. You have to go overseas for the most part.
Yeah.
And communication is very, very, very slow. So the DR, Panama, Venezuela, like I was in communication with a bunch of people like all over the world trying to find it. I got some samples sent to me and nothing was turning out right. And then I found someone, I believe in Miami, but by the time it would get to me, the quality of it wasn't what I wanted it to be. Mm-hmm. And it was just a hard process. So in my head, I said, well, when people start fashion lines, they start with T-shirts. So what can I start with?
Yeah.
And then I thought, what else do you use when you roll up? And then I thought, well, when the wood is bad, you use paper.
Yeah.
Like when you need to seal up a gravel leaf, use paper. Let me do some papers.
That's
and so
awesome.
I started with that. And then I started doing my research on that. And that's how I slowly just started to grow with it.
Yeah.
And so,
what was your major at Spelman?
Political science.
Okay, political science. This is a great segue to my next question. We know about how difficult this industry is and how hard businesses, the time that they have like growing and branding, advertising, marketing, all of the above.
Yes.
So what challenges did you or have you had to overcome or navigate through as a cannabis business owner?
So right now, I think that my main things are my trademark, and I'm filing a patent that I'm not really going to talk about too
not
much
a problem.
yet.
Yep.
But as far as like any regulations, nothing that I'm doing is considered illegal.
Yeah.
So I think that I haven't had too much of a difficult issue, but I have had my trademark be returned for some minor fixes. But other than that, I feel like everything has been like pretty self-explanatory. Even for my trademark, like I filed everything myself. Like I didn't get a lawyer for it.
Get out.
Yeah, like I feel like if you sit and read and Google and YouTube, you can literally figure out how to do anything.
Okay.
So like I do ask questions from people that I feel like are like, distinguished in that field, or if I do need actually help. But I figure out how to do everything by myself. Like, especially when it comes to, even if I am like hiring someone to do the job,
you need to know.
I'll learn how to do it myself just so I know how much time it's going to take, how much money do I think this type of job would deserve to be paid for. And that way, if you're not being overcharged or not, because when you start, being a business owner, you're on a strict budget for the most part. You don't want to waste any money, So
exactly.
I feel like I try to teach myself every aspect of everything. If it means sitting and reading something for a couple hours, and I'll do it. So
that's what's up.
Yeah.
I love that you said that, because I think that so often people like to jump into the finished product and they don't enjoy the process. And it's in the process that you really are able to influence your genius, the product by your genius. If you just get into the end product, then you're going to have what everybody else has. But the uniqueness comes in when you mold it and shape it into who and what you want it to be. Even the name, your name being Makala, Smakd Pack, all of it. Smakd by Mac. It's also crafty in terms of branding, but it's also very intentional. It shows the intentionality.
Yeah, because when you get high, you want to feel smacked.
Yes, I love every bit of it. She has taglines galore.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I think is super dope too is the fact that you are able to really discuss various aspects of the process, because most small business owners will make the excuse to say, I'm not going to do it because I don't have an attorney or I don't have a graphic designer. Tell me about what inside of you is like. Like you clearly, you said a couple of things, clearly you did your thing to get into Spelman. Let's first of all say that. We're not going to minimize Black excellence.
Thank you so
not
much.
on this podcast.
Yes.
You clearly did your thing to get out of Spelman, from California, still in Atlanta, making it happen, keeping your name out there.
Yes.
So shout out to you.
Thank you so much.
You got to celebrate. I got to celebrate
the small wins.
It's the small wins because it shows the trajectory of your journey. So you shared with me before the show that your first time consuming was in the studio.
Yeah.
You want to share that?
Okay, so I was always a really good girl. So I actually was in the studio with one of my friends. She used to do video type modeling or whatever. So she just got cool with a couple people in a rapper's like
Yeah.
crew or whatever.
Yeah.
And so at the time, I had just met my boss. Or actually, no, retract. I'm getting it mixed up. No. Me and her went to the studio to just hang out, right? And so we're there, and everyone's like playing music. So it was with Young Thug. Young Thug was in the studio, and he had a blunt in his hand. So he's pretty nice. He was going around the room like asking me if they want to smoke, and he had handed me the blunt, and I didn't want to say no because I didn't want to be rude. Me, little Orange County, like no, like that's okay, like thank you, So I like hit it, but in my head, I didn't really feel like high at first. But then when I was sitting there, I was like, oh my god, like like yeah. And it was just quite the experience. I feel like I look back on that night as just like a whirlwind. And you have to understand like where I'm from, like coming to Atlanta for the first time. That was probably like my like second or third week like out here. Like I hadn't been in Atlanta for that long. And I think that experience made me want to like try it again. So I think I tried it with one of my friends from Maryland. And he had rolled up and I was like, oh, okay. But I didn't really start actively rolling until like probably, I think the first time I rolled a blunt was sophomore year of college, and I think I only rolled it because it was for work. Like I learned how, and the only reason I learned how to roll weed was because, like I said, I like to know how things work and why they work. And so I saw a girl smoking once, and in my head, I'm like, how do you get it to burn like that? Like, teach me how to roll.
Right.
And she was from Baltimore, and she had set me down. She's like, you just do it like this, and she taught me how to roll Backwoods. But it wasn't because I wanted to smoke. It was just because I wanted to know how it worked.
That's so crazy. And so you talk about, I'm going to kind of jump into the story about the competition and how that happened, because what I love is your awareness of instinct.
Oh, yeah.
So let's talk about the competition and how you ended up competing.
Okay. So I actually, so I do creative direction and I do a lot of like creative work as well. So I was doing someone's birthday shoot that day, and she needed me to go buy her some bundles because I had her hair appointment scheduled for that day. So I ended up leaving the summit for like probably like 30 minutes or like just go run, pick up this hair and go drop it off at her hairstylist. And so when I came back, I had saw you guys lined up to like go and present you guys as like presentations. And I was like, oh my God, like I have a pitch deck. Like, I don't know if I'm supposed to be up there. Like, should I go ask someone? And I just started looking around for people wearing their Curls t-shirt. And so I saw one of the workers and I was like, hey, I have my deck. Can I email it to you so I can go present? And she was like, oh, wait, 1 second. Let me go double check on it. So then people were presenting, but the first couple girls, they didn't have an actual deck actually made. And so then you went on stage and I saw that you presented with your deck and I was like, yeah, I have a presentation. Like I need to go up there. So I went and asked another lady and I said, hey, I gave my, I think her name was Liza. I said, I sent my deck over to Liza and I'm waiting to see if I'm going to be able to present or not to the judges. And she's like, oh, let me just double check. I'll be right back. And so then you had finished. I think there was one other lady after you. So I thought she was just going to like cut it. Like, okay, like that was just it. We're taking those people. And she comes back, she's like, can you go on stage in like 30 seconds to a minute? And I was like, oh my God, like, yeah, like, sure. So I go up on stage and I didn't like practice or anything. It was kind of like a last minute thing. But I mean, like, I think everything like happens for a reason. And like, I am a religious person. I would say I'm more spiritual than like religious. And I feel like the one thing that my like parents have always taught me is that if you don't ask, it's always going to be a no. So you might as well just ask and get that like no to your face, or it's going to be a yes. So like you never know what you can get off of things if you don't open your mouth. And like closed mouths really don't get fed. So I'm pretty like open to just talking, not anyone, but like I'm pretty like social for the most part.
I think that also comes from navigating terrain like so far away from home. Like you had to figure it out. And I love the fact that question led you to $5,000 that day.
That's how I think about it too, because I did not think obviously want to say like I'm confident, you know what I mean? But like in my head when I was watching everyone present, I was like, I don't really know because I have a rolling paper company. Like people, I obviously am proud of myself, but I don't know how other people, it's a stigmatization to it, you know what I mean? So,
yeah, and one of the judges, shout out to all of the judges, Tara Carissa Hodges, Kendra with Beauty Studio, Arlan Hamilton with Backstage Capital. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
But one of the judges even said that during my presentation, that there was a little bit of a...
That's kind of what threw me off is when you were presenting and she said, yeah, like, it kind of just triggers me a little bit. And I was like, oh my God, like, I don't know how this is going to go. But when I went up there, I think I made a point to say something about it. And she said, no, like, I want to make some money.
Yeah.
I said, okay.
Yeah. I think that one of the things that I loved about your presentation is that your passion for what you built and your why behind it, it oozed throughout your presentation. And what I also appreciated was the fact that when a person looks at Smakd, they see all of you.
Yeah.
They see the creativity in the branding and the name, and also they see the ingenuity with sourcing the paper, identifying specific things that you can make better, your value proposition, which we're not telling because it is her top secret. But I'm just so proud of you.
Thank you so much.
I want this show to highlight business opportunities in the industry. I want this show to highlight that if we are going to spend thousands upon tens of thousands upon even hundreds of thousands of dollars consuming, then why not position ourselves? When I launched WH Farms, it was all about telling people, plant your flag in this industry while it's growing.
Exactly.
Don't wait until the industry takes off, and then once it becomes $100 billion industry, you turn around and say, dang, I've been smoking for 30 years and I don't have no stake in cannabis.
Exactly.
No, you can have stake in cannabis, and you can even own your own brand in cannabis and grow as the industry is growing.
Exactly. And we're at the start of it right now. Like you said, it's a renaissance.
It's the renaissance. I am so proud. Congratulations. And I want you to tell everybody where they can find their Smakd Pack.
So my personal Instagram is Makala Parks, MAKPARKSSS, 3 S's. I have my business in my bio, but the page is at RU Smakd, the letter R, the letter U, and then SMAKD. I have the website in the bio, but the website is www.rusmakd.com.
I love it. I love
Thank
it.
you.
And with every purchase, I know that they get something special, right?
Yes, with every purchase, I actually have this glass tip. So I put my roaches in here sometimes to smoke, just so I don't burn my nails or burn my lips.
Yes, protect us.
And then even it's also good for, like, you don't want to get lip gloss in the blunt in the rotation.
Yeah.
And then you also mentioned earlier with COVID, it's still going around.
Yep.
It's kind of a healthier and safer way to kind of smoke with people. So it comes free with every single purchase that you do with
I
Smakd.
love that. See,
Yes.
when you guys buy, I'm not going to say any names because I don't want any sort of lawsuits, but when you buy those other brands, they don't give you these free, considerate gifts,
I know.
especially for us ladies and our manicures. So I just want to congratulate you. Thank you so much for joining our show. Again, I'm excited to co-share a phenomenal moment with you, with us winning this pitch competition and really just indicating the opportunities that exist for entrepreneurs and business owners in this industry. So kudos for blazing your trail. And guys, this is another episode of the Canna-Coin Podcast with Nicole. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you go and get smacked ASAP.
Yes.
And definitely make sure you like, comment, and share this video. Make sure you share it with your friends. And you can follow me on social at Nicole McNair or our business page, WH Farms Co. We are the seed to shelf botanical manufacturing company. We grow hemp, and we also help businesses launch or expand their CBD product line. So we are excited. If you want to be like Makala and join the industry, we're here to help. Everybody have a great day.